Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
All right, so now how about inflammation? Muscle and joint inflammation specifically. This is the arthritis. These are the hard knots in our muscles that never seem to go away. This is really the thing most people deal with most often. And especially in this, era of computers where people are like hunched over and have bad posture, this is becoming more and more of an issue. And poor diet causes arthritis. There's so many issues that are out there these days. Well, very popular these days is turmeric. Turmeric is a wonderful anti-inflammatory, but your liver has trouble processing it by itself. If you use turmeric, and you should, you might want to consider the curcumin oil. That's actually like an extract of turmeric. It's a little bit stronger. Always combine either one of them with black pepper and some kind of natural fat. That allows your body to process it. Now, my favorite natural fat to combine with it is cod liver oil, because cod liver oil is also an excellent anti-inflammatory. So you're getting, in a couple of turmeric capsules and one or two little cod liver oil gel caps and a pinch of black pepper, you're getting some serious anti-inflammatories. Far better than those, NSAIDs. And again, we can go a little further with that and get some of that linden. Some people say, I think Susan Weed says that linden tends to work better for people of Anglo-Saxon heritage than turmeric. I don't know. Give it a try. Got nothing to lose on that one. Um, ferns, again, really good for muscle and joint inflammation. Astringents, all the astringents I've mentioned before, whether it's, tea from potentilla or anything like that, or it's a soak with, tree bark to pull down that inflammation. And I mean, it really does work. And another one that's really interesting is called Jeffersonia or twin leaf. That seems to be specifically good for what you would call rheumatic pain. Let's see, how about varicose veins? A lot of people who stand a lot have pain from varicose veins, basically because the blood goes down to the feet and it kind of pulls, and the body has to work hard to pump it back up, and the veins kind of get expanded and soggy. They lose their tone. Well, you can kind of tone them back up with horse chestnut or buckeye. It's a tree. Um, it very common where I live. The nuts, the seeds look like chestnuts, but you can't eat them. You can make a nice foot bath out of them or put them in your bath water. You can even take them in a little bit of a tincture, and they will tonify those veins. Can help a whole lot. Um, let's see. How about now we'll get to digestive issues, cramping. You know, intestinal cramps can hurt like the dickens. You can settle those down with a lot of things. Chamomile is very soothing. Mallow is, again, incredibly soothing. Clove Remember the same cloves I said you could use for toothache? Cloves are antispasmodic. My favorite is calamus root, sweet flag. It's you usually see it growing by cattails. It's just it's a little bitter, spicy kind of root. Very good antispasmodic for the intestines. Chew it, make a tea out of it. There's a little warning on the European calamus that it may have some carcinogens in it. That does not seem to be the case for the American calamus. So if you're going to buy calamus, look for American calamus. Um, fleabane is an excellent spasmodic, and astringent for the intestines. So is yarrow. In that case, you want to have your yarrow tea cold, though, because yarrow tea hot and yarrow tea cold have two different effects. Other digestive pain would be gas, painful gas. Fennel seed, caraway seed, and mint leaves are excellent for gas. You can use those with small children all the way up to old age. Um, Menstrual cramps. This one, the the name of the herb is the first go-to. Viburnum or cramp bark. Viburnum is antispasmodic. You can use viburnum and skullcap as well, which is also antispasmodic for a lot of these complaints. Anything where you're having spasms and cramps. Viburnum, skullcap, valerian, and interestingly, black cohosh. Black cohosh seems to be particularly good for some of the female complaints. Now, nerve pain. Nerve pain is a serious issue for a lot of people. And we'll get a little more into this in a bit, but St. John's wort is very good for healing nerves and soothing nerves. You could take St. John's wort as a tincture, you could take it as a capsule, you can use St. John's wort oil. I would do all the above. But one that is really interesting is cayenne or other hot peppers, capsicum. Now, I'm going to again use sort of a simple analogy that, medical professionals would scream about, but you'll kind of get the idea. When you have pain, that part of your body sends a signal up through the nerves to your brain to tell you, hey, something's wrong down here. In order to do that, it's a chemical reaction. And that nerve only has in it so much of that chemical. So, if you use cayenne or other what are called counter irritants, um, you are basically triggering that nerve to say, hey, something's bothering me. And not only when you rub the cayenne, say you got sciatic pain, right? It's running down the outside of your leg, and you rub that on there. Well, it warms it up, and it actually kind of helps a little bit. It feels better, but it's also signaling to the brain, hey, something's burning me here. Well, after 3 or 4 days of it doing that signal, it starts to run out of the chemical that sends the signal. Then you have a reduction in nerve pain because the nerve doesn't have as much of the signal to tell the brain there's something wrong. And if the nerve can't tell the brain there's a problem, you don't feel pain. So that's how, your counter irritants like cayenne, that's the most commonly used, can be used. You can do an oil of cayenne and just rub it on there. And literally, I just mean take some cayenne pepper and put it in some oil and warm it up. You're not taking this internally, so you don't have to use olive oil or whatever. You can use vegetable oil. It doesn't matter. You can just mix it in with lard if that makes you happy. Hey, I'm Southern. We'll use the lard. But of course, you want to use something that's not going to go rancid or smell or be real greasy on you. But that's how a counter irritant works. Okay. And now let's get into some specifics on herbs. I've kind of gone through the general overview. Now we're going to get into some more herbs that have, a lot of these have more of what you might call a narcotic quality. And I don't mean they make you high. I mean they slow respiration and relax muscles. Um, First one would be Pedicularis. Pedicularis or wood betony. You may see this called parrot's beak, elephant's head, Indian warrior. It's got all kinds of interesting names. You can make a tincture out of it, and it is an excellent um, skeletal muscle relaxer that also deadens pain, and it can also be smoked. It can be used in some of those smoking mixtures we talked about in several shows back. Um, kind of helps with the spasms of asthma. It helps with a lot of muscle tension, and it's very mellowing. It's not going to make you high unless you happen to be sensitive to it in some way, but it is more like a muscle relaxer. Skullcap can be used in the same way. Pedicularis and Skullcap are often combined for that reason. The two together seem to work better than separately. Another one that would fall into that category is cowslip or primrose. Um, Cowslip used to be the favorite ingredient in Britain for putting in beer because you not only got the beer, but you mellow it out with cowslip. Primrose is not quite as strong as cowslip, but gosh, it's a pretty flower. Nice to have around ornamentally. Anyway, you look at it, and when you realize it can help with muscle tension and pain, one you're going to want to have in the flower pot. Whole plant can be used. Actually, the upper part of the plant is stronger than the root. So I'm talking flowers, I'm talking leaves, even stems. The root's actually not a very strong relaxant. Mimosa, again. I mentioned mimosa for allergies. Now, here's the interesting thing about mimosa. This is a leguminous plant, means it's in the same family as green beans, believe it or not, and kudzu and wisteria and all kinds of stuff like that. It's generally seen as a weed, and that's just such a mistaken way to look at it because all legumes take nitrogen from the atmosphere and fix it in the soil. If you have a couple of these beautiful, sweet smelling mimosa trees in your yard, it will fertilize all the plants that grow around it. They're great to have around. But mimosa blossoms not only help with allergies, but they help with pain, especially nerve and muscle pain. A tincture of mimosa is calming and relaxing, and it's one of those we would call slightly narcotic. Not in that it makes you high, but in that it relaxes your muscles and calms respiration. Jamaican dogwood. This is not, you know, Florida dogwood, Cornus species. This is a specific plant that is, I'm going to say, 10 times stronger than the mimosa I just mentioned. Jamaican dogwood is, for about 50% of the population, as good for pain as morphine. For the other 50% of the population, it doesn't do much at all. You never know till you try it. Uh, there are a lot of, this is the way it is with herbs. Bacopa is also one that will just relax those muscles, calm the nerves, and mellow you out. Boswellia has some of those qualities, but it's also strongly anti-inflammatory. It is so good for arthritis. Boswellia and Bacopa can be combined. I've done that before. It's a wonderful formula. One of those that also falls into the category of it works for some and doesn't work for most people is wild lettuce. I will say it doesn't work for most people. We'll probably say like Jamaican dogwood. It's a 50-50. For some people, wild lettuce is as effective as morphine for pain and tension and stress. For other people, it does absolutely nothing. Wild lettuce is a common weed. You'll probably see it in old parking lots, around railroad tracks, the side of the road. You always want to be careful where you gather things. You cut the top off, you collect the sap, you dry it out, and then you make a tincture of it. Well, some people actually just make a tincture of the plant. Actually, they take it and they hang it upside down and take the tops and tincture them. They say it works just as well. We'll just have to experiment with that one and see what you think. For a lot of people, it really seems to help, and for a lot of people, it does absolutely nothing, and they're looking at the others like they're crazy. You just never know. One that's a little more reliable, but do the exact same thing as the California poppy. Now, California poppy has a lot of the pain uh, relieving properties as the poppy, but without the opium. Don't really know how it works, but there are alkalines in California poppy that seem to help with pain and anxiety. Um, and it's perfectly legal. You can grow it, you can harvest it, don't worry about it. I mean, check your state, but I've never heard of it being illegal anywhere. Ditto with prickly poppy. Now, prickly poppy has the pain relieving effects of California poppy with just a tiny bit of the opium from an opium poppy. Again, as far as I know, it's legal. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you there's a such thing as a safe opiate. Okay. So look into it and make your own decision whether that's something you want to use or not. But the amount it has in it is basically like the poppy seeds you would have in your salad dressing or on your bagel. You know, this is not one, maybe, I honestly, I don't think it is stronger than that, but if it's just a little stronger than that, it is just a little bit. So we're talking now, we're starting to get into those that I have to put the caveats of use with care. Okay. And the next one is obvious tobacco. Yes, the demon weed, whatever. Everyone's always freaked out about tobacco. I'm not trying to tell you to smoke tobacco. What I'm going to tell you is, like I said about the bee sting, how you can take a little tobacco and chew it up and put it on there, and it'll take out the pain and inflammation. If you have serious muscle, joint, nerve pain, you can either soak that body part in a hot water, a tub of hot water in which a little bit of tobacco has been steeped in, or you can take a full bath in a hot bathtub in which just a little bit of tobacco has been put in. It will take out the pain and it will reduce the inflammation. It's actually pretty miraculous the way it works. Um, every herb has a purpose, okay? There's no such thing as an evil plant. It's only a matter of how it's used. Now, the caveat again with tobacco is if you have been addicted to tobacco and you spent years quitting smoking or whatever, don't use it for this purpose because you will absorb nicotine through your skin and you'll be addicted to tobacco again. Also, if anyone knows, like the first time you smoke a cigarette or chew tobacco and it makes you nauseous and it makes you dizzy. Well, if you're not used to nicotine and you get in a bathtub, you could get nauseous and dizzy. If you stay in there too long, you can get a little lightheaded when you stand up and, I don't know, pass out and break a hip or hit your head on the toilet and die. So this is one, a little bit of tobacco in a bath timed. You say, I'm going to soak for 5 minutes to see how I feel and get out. If you have a partner who can monitor you and help you in the bathroom, even better. People have different nicotine tolerances. So I'm going to tell you, if this is one you use, be careful. Use some common sense. But no, if you're sensitive to nicotine, it will affect you the same way as it would if you were smoking a cigarette, except you're absorbing it through your skin, a much wider surface area, so it's going to hit you faster and harder. If, like me, nicotine doesn't phase you at all, I could probably soak in there for an hour and not even know I had tobacco in the water. I don't have any addictive tendencies to tobacco, and it really doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me ill. Really does to some people, though. So you got to be aware again of your constitution. Along those lines, we're going to get into another one that's a touch more dangerous. Datura. This is belladonna. This is Jimson weed. This is bittersweet. This is even mandrake, European mandrake, and a few others. These plants are excellent for nerve pain. They are excellent um, as a sedative to help a person sleep if used properly. If taken internally and in more than just a very small amount, they will make you bat crap crazy. Here, that's my politically correct way of saying that. Bat crap crazy. They have hallucinogenic properties if taken internally that are not the hippy trippy kind of hallucinogenics. From everything I've read about them and everyone I've ever talked to about it, these are like waking nightmares that will drive you insane. And they are also toxic, and a large dose can kill you. So, with that caveat, the weakest of them is bittersweet, and a small amount in a foot bath can be excellent for neuropathy, nerve pain. Okay, maybe if you can tolerate it. That's one you got to read up on and you've got to learn how to use. It's just like I've said before, a leaf of Jimson weed dried, Two or three puffs on it will stop the spasms of an asthma attack. These plants are strongly antispasmodic, somewhat sedative, and excellent analgesics for specifically nerve pain. But very dangerous. Don't misuse them. I mean, they used to say in Europe that when they pulled up the mandrake, it would scream, and the person who pulled it up would drop dead. Now, that's a pretty strong hallucinogen, okay, if you think that the plant you're pulling up is screaming and then you die. So don't fool around with something that dangerous. Do research and decide if it's something you even want to consider using. Now, next on that, the most poisonous plant you're going to discover in a garden, okay? Aconite, monkshood, wolfsbane, whatever you want to call it. This is one that if you eat it, you will die. If you eat a flower of this plant, you will die. If you use a tincture of this plant and take it internally, you will die. Do not ever take aconite internally whatsoever. Don't put it on an open sore. Don't even use it if you can't learn to use it responsibly on your own, okay? Don't even use it. But if you had a tincture of aconite, and we're talking fresh plant, we're not even talking the root, you can take that tincture and put a little bit on a cotton ball and rub it over the area that hurts, and it will numb out to the point you can't even tell the body part is still there. Remember what I said cayenne does to the nerve? It kind of exhausts it and it can't tell the brain it's hurting. You can think of aconite as doing that in an instant to the whole area. If you have severe sciatic pain, if you have the kind of severe back pain, if you have, I mean, like you're just like screaming, you're in such pain, and you can actually learn to use this herb properly and safely, maybe it's one you might consider. But I'm telling you, don't use it. It's that dangerous. Okay. Next is one that's a little less dangerous, but can also kill you. Gelsemium. Gelsemium is a beautiful plant. It's a state flower of South Carolina. It's called Carolina jessamine, also known as yellow jasmine. It looks like a big yellow honeysuckle. And it's a great plant. It grows wild all over the place. The root, and specifically, I think it's the stolons that branch off from the roots, they contain alkaloids that, used in a tincture, work against pain very similarly to morphine. They affect the central nervous system and remove all symptoms of pain. They could probably be very useful in helping people get off of opiates if they're on them because of pain, because they don't give the high, they don't give they don't trigger the morphine receptors. They just simply deaden the pain. Oh, they make you incredibly sleepy and knock you down. But here's the problem: more than just a few drops is as deadly as any opiate overdose. It will do the same thing. Your respiration and heart will slow down until you stop breathing and you die. You, if you're going to even think about using this plant, you need to learn to make the proper tincture with it so that you know exactly how many drops to use, and then use it a drop at a time till you find the right dose. I mean, few drops too many will kill you stone cold dead. So again, I'm going to tell you, do not use this herb. You know, make your own decisions, but I'm telling you, don't use it. And another one along those lines that is incredibly toxic is byrony. Now, byrony has its uses. It is poisonous, but again, you're talking incredibly small doses. Incredibly small doses. It's also including some homeopathic remedies, so that may be the better way to go. Now, I suppose lastly, I should mention what everybody's been talking about these days. The two things that you see a commercial for just about every 10 minutes, I think: kratom and CBD products. And, well, cannabis is related to CBD products. Kratom is a very interesting herb, okay? It is useful in pain. It does seem to be addictive. It's fairly new to our country, where it's been used for a long time. You know, they know a lot more about it than we do. I frankly think it's a little dangerous the way it's being marketed at gas stations. Probably, the libertarian in me says, live and let live, and the mature adult says, hey, there are a bunch of teenagers going in there getting high, and they're not mature enough to know what they're doing yet. But kratom does have use as a pain reliever. It's one that you really do want to investigate, learn about, and make an informed decision on. And really, it's one of those, like a lot of things, you need to ask yourself, am I responsible enough to use this? And if your answer is no, well, then don't use it. But if your answer is yes, I can manage my own life and I do just fine, then it's an option. Um, Same, I guess, with cannabis if it's legal in your area. It's not here, and it's not something I use. Um, CBD is, cannabis oil without the THC. Again, it's not one I've used, but people say it really helps. They can use it topically, they can take it. I mean, they say it has no side effects. You're just gonna have to look into it and decide for yourself. But I think it's probably safer than probably what the last six herbs that I've mentioned. So definitely worth looking into. Now remember, feeling no pain is far worse than feeling some pain. The main substances that can take away all pain are opiates, cocaine, which is the best topical anesthetic there is, or drinking yourself into a coma. None of those three things are good for you, okay? Always remember, as long as you can feel some pain, you're still alive. So never try to go to the extreme on this. So I've given you a lot of things to think about, and hopefully I've given you a lot of things to research. Because again, I'm going to give this very strong disclaimer. Don't use any single herb I've recommended on this show without researching it, making your own informed decision, and then you're treating yourself. I'm telling you, don't use any of them. Some of them, like chamomile, I'm sure are safe as can be. Some of them, like aconite, will kill you dead, to be a little redundant. You just do your own research. Hopefully, I'm giving you enough information that, if more people were using herbs like this, maybe we wouldn't have a fentanyl and OxyContin crisis. And that's my hope. So that's the spirit in which I'm sharing this information. So, all right, y'all. Have a good one. Be safe. Be safe. And I'll talk with you next week.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.